What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Dynasty. Today, we are going to be recapping everything that happened in the NFL and in fantasy football in week one of this season. We're preparing for week two, but we still have to talk about what happened. So, without further ado, let's get my co host, MFGDs, in the building so we can talk some fantasy football week one. War, how you doing, man?
I'm woke. I'm always woke, baby. I'm always awake. I ain't never sleep on the stream. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
Hey, they said you were sleeping in the last one, man.
My eyes just low, man. I just got low eyes. I've been telling them that. They don't want to believe me. It's all good. I'm never sleep. I'm always woke.
It is what it is, man. So, I'll just let you know the way we're doing this show is we'll talk all these matchups starting at Thursday night. Then we'll go to Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Then we'll talk Monday Night Football. We also have a rookie report card that we'll bring up. It'll be some of the top 10 scoring fantasy football rookies this week. And we also have performances of the week throughout the show. So I'm sure lots of commentary coming from you. Lots of things happen, and we need to talk about all of it. So why don't you say we just start right at the very beginning with Thursday Night Football? So Thursday Night Football, it was Lions-Chiefs. The Lions actually end up upsetting. They were underdogs, betting underdogs, the Kansas City Chiefs in a matchup where they won 21-0. As we look at this matchup, War, does that kind of surprise you? I mean, some of the guys in this game, Mahomes threw for 225 and 2 touchdowns. Jared Goff was 250 and a touchdown. David Montgomery, your former Bear, he rushed for 75 yards and a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of a quiet night, 42 yards, but he was used in the receiving game. I don't think anybody expected much out of him. But really, other than that, man, Josh Reynolds was the leading receiver. Kadarius Toney fell apart on prime time with like 500 drops. What are your takeaways from this game, man, and how do you feel about that matchup?
I mean, I guess there's probably a couple people out there that think that me and you are foolish because, we were definitely against the Lions all off season thinking, that they're a little overhyped. And you know what, man? I still think they're overhyped. I think now they're even more overhyped than they were before. Let's be honest. Okay, I'm going to lay the groundwork for this entire episode. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if it's because teams were like taking it more easy in the preseason or what. There was a shocking amount of teams that just did not perform up to standard in week one. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people to lose money next week because they're going to take what's happened in week one and run with it. I'm going to quote Kyle Brandt from Good Morning Football, what he said a few weeks ago. Week one is a liar. Week one is a liar every season. I could point to several examples where teams got blown out or lost in week one, and everybody jumped to the conclusion that this team was going to be good or this team was going to be bad. Week one is a liar. I could go down a whole list of teams where I feel like the result isn't exact and necessarily indicative of what I think that team will ultimately be. And this is one of the games. Kansas City, they're missing Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, who is back now, missing Chris Jones. And I think that is one of those cases where Kansas City probably came out because even though we all know Detroit probably improved this offseason, but I'm pretty sure Kansas City came in thinking we could still beat the brakes off these cats. I'm pretty sure. And, Detroit, because of their coach, stay fired up. Stay fired up at all given times. So am I surprised that the Lions won? No. I did think that the Chiefs receivers were going to do a little bit more than what they did, particularly Sky Moore. Don't really have any faith in Kadarius Toney whatsoever. He's a clown. Yeah, I thought the Chiefs were still going to win that game. I even cost somebody a ticket because I told them, it's nothing to worry about. But apparently it was. I expect Kansas City, who has these spells of starting slow or going on lulls during the season, Kansas City is going to be all right. Detroit, I don't know who they're playing next week. They're probably going to lose. We'll see. I think we're going to see the real identity of some of these teams start next week. So That's my take
Yeah.
on it.
I mean, you brought it up. No Kelsey, no Chris Jones. But I think both of those have kind of been figured out at this point. There's rumors that Kelsey will be playing this week, and obviously Chris Jones signed an extension here. So, um, it seems like they got that figured out. And you also bring up those receiving options for Kansas City, man. I think disappointing is probably an understatement. And not that I was really expecting Sky Moore or Tony or any of these guys to really take the world by storm, but it is a little bit frustrating. It is a little bit discouraging as somebody who has kind of went to bat for Sky Moore as the guy who I think and thought could be the lead receiver in that, receiving room, to go out there in a game with basically Tony is non-existent in this game. Kelsey's not on the field. There was really no competition in that receiving room. And it just felt like, for what it's worth, Sky Moore was non-existent. I mean, I'm looking at, the stat sheet here, and I can't even, I don't even know where he's at, man. I don't even know if he had a catch. Did he have a catch in that
I mean,
game?
he had some kind of stat on my fantasy team. I don't know
It
what the stat was, but
it looks like he was 0 for 0, man. 0 receptions for 0 yards, 0 touchdowns on 3 targets. It's
did he
just
rush the ball? Like,
it's tough, man. I don't know. I guess he did rush the ball for 4 yards. So, he was just non-existent, and that's unfortunate, man. I thought he could do a little bit more, but um, you know, obviously I'm not throwing away Sky Moore on my dynasty rosters, but at the end of the day, it's not what we wanted to see week 1.
no, not at all. I think it'll get better though. It'll get better for him.
Yeah, I hope so. And then when you go and you look at the other side of the ball, obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs, 7 attempts for 42 yards. He's averaging about 6 a carry, but if you watch the game, he looks so good, man. Like in the limited carries he got, he was so explosive. He had a carry that probably should have been a touchdown, but he slipped when he was making that cut back to the right side of the field. And dude, he just looks good. I think it's a matter of time before Jahmyr Gibbs really takes over that backfield and becomes a real contributor for your fantasy football teams.
Yeah, yeah, I think he'll be fine. Like a lot of this week one stuff, like you kind of seen it with a lot of the rookie running backs this week, where like they showed you that when the opportunity knocks, they're going to take it and run with it.
Yeah, and then obviously good games for Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown. I think that'll continue all year. I think he's going to be a good receiver for your teams.
Yeah.
And Sam Laporta looked good too, 5 receptions for 39 yards on 5 targets. So I think they might have some good rookies over there in Detroit, man.
Yeah, I think they're onto something. Like I said, I don't think they're this world beater that people think they are, but they're onto something as far as the roster construction. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, let's go over to that Sunday morning slate. There was some games over there that we can talk about. First one being the Panthers at the Falcons. They lost 10-24 in this matchup, and it was really just a game where Arthur Smith decided that he just wanted to run the hell out of this football. Tyler Algier was involved. In fact, he was the leading rusher for the team, even though they just spent a first-round pick on Bijan Robinson. Kyle Pitts, leading receiver, 2 receptions for 44 yards, and Drake London, nothing. So I guess on the other side of the ball, Bryce Young, he had a touchdown, 150 yards and 2 picks. Miles Sanders, he did what we thought he was going to do, 18 carries for 72 yards, and Hayden Hurst was the leading receiver. So how do you feel about this matchup, man? And how do you feel about some of these guys' days? Like, what is the takeaway from these teams here?
Oh boy. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Start with the Falcons. This game in general, let me just put it out there. I don't care. Drake London, man, Kyle Pitts. I mean, whew, rest in peace. Rest in peace, buddy.
It's going to be a long season if
Gonna be a
if this
long season.
if Arthur Smith just wants to run the hell out of the ball, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, man. I'm ordered a bouquet of flowers. I hope it reaches the Atlanta Falcons practice facilities. Got a bouquet for Pitts. Got a bouquet for London. And they're going to be lower 6 feet under for this fantasy season because of Desmond Ritter. And then they're going to get rid of Ritter. So That's how I think they're gonna. I think that's the route they're gonna go. I mean, Jesus Christ, this Falcons offense is putrid outside of Bijan. I mean, Bijan owners, hey, congratulations! You're probably gonna run away with this position. So I mean, that's all I gotta say about the Falcons. I mean, geez, man, I just feel so. And I traded for London in one of my in the league, so I'll be complete. I'm looking for alternatives from London. I'm thinking. I know it's his sophomore year, but I'm thinking about red shirting London for the rest of the season until they get a competent quarterback. Man, who's backing up Desmond Ritter? Is it Taylor Heineke?
Taylor Heineke.
Like, pray, like, Lord Jesus Christ, please bench Desmond Ritter. I've seen enough.
But here's the thing: they won. They won.
I don't care. I've seen enough. I'm done. I'm done with Ritter. I don't want to see him play ever again. I won't even call him a bust because I don't think that anything should have been expected. Kyle Pickett had a horrible Kenny Pickett had a horrible first game, and I'm like, I can't think of a worse game. Jeez, I mean, what do we? Josh Allen. I mean, Desmond Ritter. I mean, but at least Josh Allen, you have hope because you've seen him do it before. I'm done talking about the Falcons, man. Just rest in peace, Pitts and London. I'm very unfortunate for those guys. The Panthers, I don't feel much better about it. I mean, I have more faith in Bryce Young having a better season as the season progresses. I definitely think he's going to be using a security blanket all season. And by security blanket, I mean Hayden Hurst. If you got him on your roster, he's definitely a formidable second tight end to have. Miles Sanders, I'm disappointed. He didn't do enough. I seen way too much Chuba Herbert. I know you said Miles was dealing with a groin, but didn't like what I saw there. The receivers in Carolina, I don't like what I seen there. This is a picture game. This is a typical game. I mean, hope the Panthers keep losing for the sake of my team, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here, look, I think there's a lot to unfold there, and there's a lot to touch on, and I think for me, it's funny because we play this game of fantasy football, but at the end of the day, Arthur Smith even came out with the quote, and he had the quote of he'll let the fantasy football guys worry about that. When they asked him about why Drake London had 0 catches, and he said, "I'll let the fantasy football guys worry about that. We'll only worry about football." What'd you say?
I said, fuck Arthur. That's what I said.
I mean,
I said, hey, fuck Arthur.
At the end of the day, man, it is what it is. But
fuck him.
Look, man, like I said, I think they want to run the hell out of the football. They had 26 rushing attempts between Algier. Let's just say 25 rushing attempts between Algier and Bijan. They ran for 2 touchdowns, 130 something yards. It was a very, very big day on the ground for them. As far as being in the air, it's crazy to me that Mac Hollins is the second leading receiver.
Can we almost just agree, like, across the board, this was a weird ass NFL week, not only for fantasy but real life. I mean, you had guys, and I'm looking at Puka Nacua, if that's how you say it. You had guys blowing up that people are going to blow their entire fab for, and they're going to spend the rest of the season being trash. I'm just being completely honest for it. Being completely honest.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. I think, let's talk about you've touched a lot on the negatives. I'll touch on the positive takeaways that I had from this game. I mean, the good things is if you drafted Bijan, congratulations, because he had 6 receptions in that game. He had more receptions than anybody in the receiving corps, so they're going to use him there. He caught a receiving touchdown, used him a lot on the ground. He's going to get a lot of usage. He's going to be very good for fantasy football and dynasty teams, for a long time. Bryce Young, guy I've been very high on, and I think he's going to be a very good NFL quarterback. Obviously not the best day for him to come out and throw 2 picks, but I do think they asked him to throw a lot. When you throw that much, he threw 38 footballs. When you throw that much, it's hard to kind of keep it under control, especially when you're playing from behind and trying to catch up. It's tough to keep it under wraps. But you kind of talked negatively about Miles Sanders, and I know you said you didn't want to see as much Chuba Hubbard as you did, but I think Miles Sanders had a really good day, man. He had 18 carries for 72 yards, and then he was the second leading receiver in this game. He had 4 receptions for 26 yards. So, almost 100 yards combined, all purpose, 6 receptions. I mean, 6 targets and 4 receptions. It's what I've been saying was going to happen with Miles Sanders. I said he was going to be utilized as a 3-down back. He is being utilized as a 3-down back. And this is good for fantasy football, man, because the price you paid for admission was very cheap. And week 1, even in a game where they were playing from behind, we kind of saw what I said I think is going to happen with him this year. And I think the volume is going to be good enough that you're going to be happy with Miles Sanders.
I mean, it just needs to translate completely into fantasy because I got him on a team and he scored like 11 points. And I'm looking more so for Miles, like more like 15 or 16 fantasy points a game. And then an occasional 20 plus point game. 11, 11 points per. And I know I might be being greedy. 11 points per game for him. And the team I have him on, I'm using him as like my primary running back. I need more Miles. I need more. I need more
Yeah.
miles. I need more
It's going to
miles out of you.
it's going to come down to, touchdowns. And that's going to come with more experience for Bryce Young. He's going to get more comfortable in the NFL. He's going to get more comfortable in the offense that Frank Reich is running. And hopefully, he gets some more of these receivers healthy. Obviously, DJ Shark didn't play, and he gets some of those guys. And hopefully that offense will start clicking a little bit more. And by the end of the season, you're going to get some more touchdown opportunities from Miles Sanders. But I think, even now, the usage is promising. I feel happy with the usage. I think I'm fine with Miles Sanders right now. There's nothing that I'm really panicking about. Um, but when I look at the receiving core, kind of a really dead week for, I think, people who felt like Adam Thielen was going to be a PPR monster for Bryce Young. He had 2 receptions for 9 yards. Or 2 receptions for 12 yards. And then Jonathan Mingo, he didn't do much either. 2 receptions for 17 yards. It really was there wasn't much of a show going on for Carolina, but it seemed like it was Hayden Hurst and Miles Sanders, and that was really about the only things they could figure out.
Yep. Rookie quarterback in the security blanket.
Yep. So, anyways, I'm not panicked off of Bryce Young. Do not be scared off of what you saw in dynasty leagues. I still think Bryce is going to be very good.
Dynasty league, ladies and gentlemen, he said dynasty leagues. Keep that in
Yes.
mind.
Yes. Yes. In redrafts, I don't know if you can, one quarterback leagues, you probably can't. I mean, you should not be rostering Bryce Young in one quarterback leagues. And in Superflex redrafts, you probably don't need Bryce Young
He's
on your team
available in
right now
ours.
either. Yeah, I don't think you probably need him right now. But let's go to the other rookie quarterback, and we can talk about this Houston Texans and Baltimore Ravens game. Obviously, the biggest piece of news out of this Ravens game is that J.K. Dobbins tears an Achilles. He's done for the season, and obviously for Dynasty Fantasy Football, this is very tough because it's tough, man. You come off the ACL injury that he had, which was very gruesome, very damaging to the knee, and now you tear the Achilles, and he's in a contract year. It's tough, man, for J.K. Dobbins. So, Houston Texans, they lose 9-25 on the road. C.J. Stroud didn't look great. He looked a little bit better than Bryce Young did that day, but I don't know, man. What is your thoughts, and what are some of the takeaways from this game here?
I don't have much to say about the Texans. I mean, Stroud looked mid. We'll see. I don't even know if he
Two,
was mid. He was trash.
240 yards, 0 touchdowns.
I mean, I think he threw more yards than Justin Fields. So, but yeah, I don't have much to
It's
say
just
about
that
that.
it's that
Damon Pierce looked explosive. I mean, if I had to, but I come to expect that for Damon Pierce. So,
still only 38 yards for Damian Pierce, though.
yeah, I mean, they look trash. I'm not even. I don't really have much to say about them. This is gonna mainly be about Baltimore.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'll give you the stats for Baltimore real quick, and I'll let you touch on it for there because, and before we get off of Houston, I will say, Nico Collins looked good. He had 6 receptions on 11 targets for 80 yards. I think if that offense gets a little bit more comfortable, it seems like Nico Collins' target share, it does look like he's the number one wide receiving option for CJ Stroud. So potentially a stash for you in leagues, and maybe a candidate that you could buy low on now in your dynasty leagues and get some value out of later. But for the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, 17 attempts for 169 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So not a great day for Lamar Jackson. And that's going to be a theme as we go through the rest of this show. I mean, a lot of these top quarterbacks didn't have a great day. I think they said there was a joke on Twitter. It was like $1 billion worth of quarterback contracts this week combined for 1 touchdown. $1 billion of quarterback contract paid combined 1 touchdown. But Lamar Jackson, he rushes 6 times for 38 yards. Obviously, JK looked like he was going to have a day, and then the Achilles injury, and then it gets split between Gus Edwards and Justice Hill, who are probably waiver ads for you in your redraft leagues. But the big thing that I'm seeing from this game, Zay Flowers, 9 receptions on 10 targets for 78 yards. He looked freaking good, man. He looked really good, and he looks like he's the alpha wide receiver 1 in this offense.
All right, man. I'm gonna let it rip. I'm gonna start from top to bottom. Let's start with Lamar. He'll do better. I mean, this is just 1 week. He's one, to me, he's on the list of week 1 aberrations. Like shit and guys that it just didn't pop off for whatever reason in week 1 for Lamar. I think he'll get it back. I mean, should there be some type of, and this thing is going to come along a couple times in this episode, should we be concerned about what's now seems to be an ongoing thing? I mean, it feels like it's been a long time since Lamar had a Lamar game. So, I mean, I'm going to continue to keep my eye on that. Running back position, J.K. Dobbins, I think I told you the day it happened, he's barely rosterable to me. I'm going to keep him because, I mean, there's no point.
I tried to buy low.
You did. Because I don't think there's any point in getting rid of him just yet when I could just stick him on the IR and just leave it at that.
What did I offer you?
Like a third and some dude.
Evan Hull in a third or something?
Yeah, I don't even know who Evan Hull is. I thought that was a hockey player.
Rookie running back for the Colts.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Dobbins is done. Justice Hill, come on, guys. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. You're going to spend a shit ton of fab. When is that? Tonight or tomorrow night? Tomorrow night?
It's tonight. They're going to roll tonight, most likely.
I got to cancel some.
In most of people's leagues.
I'm going to have to cancel some reactionary fab spending that I set up on Sunday. But, yes, some people are going to spend a shit ton of fab on Justice Hill just for Gus Edwards to take over the backfield or them to sign Kareem Hunt or some other guy like that. If you know it's good for you, don't spend a shit ton of fab on Justice Hill. I don't know why. I think here's my theory, Drew. The Ravens had that game pretty much in hand, right?
Yeah. I mean, they were running most of the second half.
Yeah. So my theory is let's use up Justice Hill in this game that we're probably going to win instead of us putting Gus out there who was just injured last season. Let's use Justice Hill. And I think that's what happened. I think they're not going to just elevate Justice Hill over Gus Edwards after years of Justice Hill barely making a 53-man roster. Come on now. Let's use some common sense. Wide receiver position. Oh, yeah, no Mark Andrews. Extremely disappointing. I'm disappointed that Isaiah Likely didn't do more with Mark Andrews not there. Come on, Isaiah.
1 reception for 4 yards.
Yeah, that's not good enough, man. You're going to be in the Alex OK bucket pretty soon if you keep this shit up. Now save the best for last. The wide receivers, man. Zay Flowers looked like a damn dog out there, didn't he? He was what's that word they use? He was twitchy. He was twitchy out there. He was just out there just like looking like a star. OBJ looked washed, just like I thought he was going to look. I I remember like him getting one reception, then like he celebrated after that, and I was like, "You washed, bro." I think Rashad Bateman looked better than OBJ. And let's be
Yeah,
honest, if I'm the Ravens front office, I'm stoked that Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman look better than OBJ. You would love to have you would love to be in a scenario where Flowers and Bateman look so good that OBJ is pouting and pissed off because he's not getting any snaps. You want that. Trust me.
yeah. I mean, I think that was what I was going to bring up too. Is I was going to say, obviously I said it earlier, but Zay Flowers looked like a freaking dude, man. He looked good, but
Yeah.
Rashad Bateman, man, I think a lot of people kind of forgot about Bateman, over the last little while, especially with some of the injuries that he's dealt with. But I know it's just week one, and we said we're not going to overreact to week one, but and he didn't perform crazy. Like the stat line isn't crazy. It's 3 catches for almost 40 yards, but it's how he looked when he was catching the football and how he looked after the catch. And he looked good, man. And I hope that Rashad Bateman is, going to get this opportunity where he can be this number 2 or this number. He's probably going to be the number 2 wide receiver next to Zay Flowers.
Here, let's do this. And I hate that. My bad if I accidentally kill a future episode by this. Let's
Go
play a
for it.
quick game called Sustainable or Unsustainable. Now, how many
Okay.
games we do so far? 2. This is the 3rd game.
We've done. Let's see. Yeah, this is our 4th game actually. No, our 3rd game. This is our 3rd game. We still got a lot
Okay.
to go.
Yeah, I know. Game number 1 was what was the first
Lions
game?
Chiefs.
Lions Chiefs. Okay, it's not really anything surprising there. Game number 2. Okay, Hayden Hurst, sustainable or unsustainable?
Sustainable.
Okay, Rashad Bateman, sustainable, unsustainable.
Sustainable.
Okay, so I want to put that down now so I can like kind of just ask you that as we go forward. But yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty much my thoughts on this game.
Yeah. I mean, I agree too. I think when it's all said and done, man, Zay looked good. You're happy if you drafted him. You probably got him at a good price in some of your rookie drafts. And Nico Collins is sneaky. Damian Pierce, I think he's going to be held back by how bad the offense is this year, but still some things to, I guess, be excited about over there. But
Lamar being bad, is that sustainable or unsustainable?
he's not going to be like that every game. He's going to be good.
Okay, so unsustainable. All right.
Yeah, unsustainable. All right, so let's talk about this next game. And talking about unsustainable, the Cincinnati Bengals, they lost 3-24 to the Cleveland Browns. In this matchup, Joe Burrow threw for a whopping 82 yards and 0 touchdowns. Jamar Chase was the leading wide receiver with 39 yards.
Gonna be fun.
The only score comes from a field goal in the third quarter. And for the Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson, 16 completions for 154 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Nick Chubb, 18 carries for 106 yards. And Elijah Moore is the leading receiver with 3 receptions for 43 yards. So pretty
Gonna
solid
be
day
fun.
there. But what is your thought here in this Browns-Bengals game?
I've been saying the whole time you were doing your I was like, this is gonna be fun. This is okay. So there's a lot to unpack with this. I'm gonna start the Browns. Um, Sean Watson is continuing his trend, looking very, very questionable as far as can
Mid-esque?
he, yeah, mid-esque. Like it's close enough to trash for me to like be uncomfortable saying it's mid.
Did you see the pick, the interception he
Yeah,
threw?
you know what the last pick I seen that was that bad was like one of the picks that Justin Fields threw against Detroit last season, where it's just like he just threw it to the person and the person ran back for a pick six.
It looked like if I was gonna and look, I don't play football, man. I just watch it, I talk it, I play fantasy. I don't play football. If I dropped back and tried to throw a pass to you, War, you're 15 yards out, and I tried to throw it with my left hand. That's what that ball came out like. It's like he stared down the middle linebacker. And you know how sometimes, these quarterbacks, they kind of stare in a direction, then they throw, this no look pass and try and get the middle linebacker, look him off. No, he just looked him in the eyes and threw him the football.
This team, I got a feeling that this team is just going to be like, oh my goodness, man, like
They won. They won.
Look, I'm about to say this. If you could somehow get your hands on Nick Chubb, because this is going to be a Nick Chubb kind of season. Like, I think at some point they're going to figure out we have a good defense. We have an elite running back. We'll run first offense. And then we're going to start counting the clock down on Deshaun Watson's tenure in Cleveland because he makes entirely too much money to be a game managing quarterback. And
fully guaranteed too.
Fully guaranteed. So I mean, he's probably not going no damn where. So I mean, that's stuff. That was a dumb. That's I hate to say this. That's typical Cleveland Brown whatever
Behavior.
Deshaun Watson, sustainable or unsustainable?
154 for a touchdown and an interception. I feel like that type of stat line is sustainable.
Sustainable. Like I feel the same way. I'm sorry, Cleveland Brown fans. I think this is Deshaun Watson. Like, I mean, I don't know if the massages took away his pimp juice or what, but I don't think we're gonna see the Houston Texans Deshaun Watson no more. I don't have anything else to say about that offense. Nick Chubb was awesome. I think that's who, if you're looking for a savior, is Nick Chubb in your defense. Cincinnati, oh my God. I do not regret trading for Joe Burrow, by the way. This is an aberration. It's unsustainable. You know it's unsustainable. I know it's unsustainable. I don't know what the hell that was about. I'm just going to say it was just him, Josh Allen. I don't know.
Did you see Myles Garrett dribbling? Like, he was like crossing over the offensive lineman before the play, and then as soon as they snap the ball, he like swim moves them and just goes right to Joe Burrow. Like, he was toying with them this whole game. He was literally like fake crossing them over before the snap.
I think the offensive line might just be that bad. Like, that
It was
sucks.
nasty. It was nasty work.
Joe Mixon, I don't even know. Did Joe Mixon? No, obviously, he didn't do shit in this game if they only scored 3 points.
13 carries, 56 yards.
I'm just gonna breeze right past. I want to get to Chase. I want to get to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. T. Higgins, I've treated you like a son. If you play like this one more time, I'm not going to be able to defend you against Brandon anymore. I'm not. You got to play better than that. Chase, this is an aberration. I swear to God, you're not going to see next week. Cincinnati's going to make sure they don't repeat this performance. If they're this bad, next week is going to be a big problem. I already think T. Higgins is gone. Like, I don't know. I could see a scenario. Would they trade T. Higgins for offensive line help? I don't know. That's an NBA style trade, but the NFL is starting to make those kind of trades, so I don't know.
What was the meme a couple years back? It was like Joe Burrow, anybody was the offensive lineman, and it was Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow was getting sacked. And then it was like Joe Burrow, Penei Sewell, and then anybody was the wide receiver, and it was like a completed pass. It's like they keep saying like we have these stud wide receivers, we have this, but when you're playing against Myles Garrett and they have Zadarius Smith over there too, and like some of these other guys, and it's not a division that has a weak defense. Like, you still have the Ravens in that division, you have the Steelers in that division, and it's when Myles Garrett is in your face within a second. Yeah, we'll get to that. But when Myles Garrett's in your face in, half a second, I mean, there's a problem here.
Yeah, it's a big problem. They better get it fixed, man.
But with all that being said, man, I do not think that is what the Bengals are. It's an outlier week. That I don't expect that to continue. I mean, just to give you some of my thoughts, very encouraging, I think, seeing Elijah Moore lead that team in receiving yards and seeing him get the same amount of targets as Amari Cooper. That was very encouraging for me as a guy who's been an Elijah Moore truther in the past and still an Elijah Moore truther. And I think people who have been very high on David Njoku, I think that sucks because Elijah Moore looks like he is the number 2 receiving option, and you and I have said when it comes to tight ends, you want the guy who's going to at least be the number 2 receiving option. And Njoku doesn't look like he's that anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like you said, T. Higgins, he owes everybody an apology. Doesn't even show up on the stat sheet because it was 0 catches for 0 yards, for 0 touchdowns, for 0 whatever. Doesn't show up. I mean, he's not even on
I
the stat
think
sheet.
I'm looking at this the same way I looked at the week 1 game between Chicago and San Francisco, where it was just like a monsoon, so
Yeah.
everybody was
It's like just
trash.
throw
I'm
it
looking
away.
at it like that. But Deshaun Watson, you have another week to prove us wrong. I'll give you like 5% of the benefit of the doubt that okay, maybe the rain was why you were trash, but just like with Lamar, it's starting to become you being trash. It's starting to become a trend. Not to say Lamar was being trash because it's different levels, but
Well,
Watson was
he
trash last year, and he's starting off this year trash. So
He gets the Steelers next week, so we'll see what happens.
yeah,
Um,
we'll see.
but let's go to this next game. I think we have some good things to talk about in this one. It wasn't one of the ugly morning games. We had a lot of ugly weather, ugly morning games, but this one was a good one, and it was the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Indianapolis Colts. The Jaguars win 31-21. It is the emergence or reemergence, I guess, of Calvin Ridley. Goes 8 receptions for 101 yards and a touchdown. Trevor Lawrence, 241 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, looks the part. ETN, 18 carries for 77 yards and a touchdown. And then when you go over to the Colts side of the football, man, Anthony Richardson, have yourself a day, young man. 223 yards, 1 touchdown, looked the part. And then he went for 40 rushing yards and a touchdown on the ground. And Michael Pittman Jr., a guy that we said, hey, I don't know if I'd want Michael Pittman Jr. because Anthony Richardson is throwing him the football. He gets 8 receptions for 97 yards and a touchdown. So, what are some of the key takeaways you have from this game here for fantasy football, man?
I mean, the Jaguars might just be a bad defense. I mean, I think that plays a role for sure. I think Anthony Richardson's production is sustainable. I think that this is
Agreed.
probably I wouldn't say this is the floor for him. I think the floor is worse because I don't see him throwing for like 200 plus yards every week. But what he did on the ground, I think he could do way more than that. And
Yeah.
I think for passing, that was a good day for him. Michael Pittman.
Sustainable or unsustainable?
Right now, I'm leaning
El-
unsustainable. Right
11
now,
targets. 11 targets.
yeah, that's definitely the opportunity right there. Uh, yes, I mean, we'll see, man. Like I said, week 1 is a liar, man. So we don't know. Other side of the ball.
Jacksonville.
Trevor Lawrence is Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was dropping dimes. Calvin Ridley is back. My question, I didn't necessarily doubt Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley was T. Higgins to me before T. Higgins. And I wasn't doubting him, but I needed to see that that the long layoff wasn't going to impact him. And as you can see, he's still a dog, man. ETN, good day. Still don't believe in him necessarily, but good day. Where's Christian Kirk?
It's the question. 1 reception for 9 yards.
Oh man, this is not starting off good, man. I mean, Calvin Ridley, he looked like the I'm getting first the ball guy. So I mean,
Came in and took his lunch money.
yeah. So
But Zay
we'll see.
Jones, five receptions for 55 yards and a touchdown.
I want to say that I think that that's probably more than likely going to flip. Kirk is going to be the one to have the stat line that Zay had usually, and Zay's probably going to be more likely the guy to get the 1 reception. But definitely not a good start. But again, week 1 is a liar.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was good things from both teams. I liked exactly everything that I saw. Trevor Lawrence looked the part. Anthony Richardson looked the part. Michael Pittman was surprising, and it was a good surprise to me. Um, I've been a guy who has been on record, and I'm sure you guys will let the record show that I've talked negatively about Travis Etienne and how I thought that Tank Bigsby was going to be this thorn in his side, and like you said, it's only week one war, but through 1 week, it doesn't look like that is going to be the case right now. Bigsby had 7 attempts for 13 yards, and I'm pretty sure he fumbled the football as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure he fumbled the
All
football as well.
security is going to play a big role and stand on the field.
Yeah, but ETN looked good, man. If you drafted ETN, you're happy with what he did week one. 18 attempts for 77 yards and a touchdown. You'll be happy with that all day long, especially when he's giving you 5 receptions in the game and 27 receiving yards as well. So, good game from everybody. I think those Jacksonville Jaguars, man, I mean, they look like they're locked to win that AFC South. Um, it's a playoff team, man. This is a playoff team.
Every other team in that division looked trash to me.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the rest of the guys, right? Like we talked about Houston, we talk about the Colts, and the Colts looked fine. They looked fine, but the Jags just look like they're a whole tier above everybody else in this division.
Yeah, I agree.
So, anyways, let's talk about the next game. And unfortunately, you see the lights, you see the jerseys, you see the hat, you see the shirt. Yeah, my Minnesota Vikings, they lost 17-20 to Baker Mayfield's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Rough day, man. Couldn't keep control of the football. There was a lot of fumbles, some interceptions. Just a bad day all around. But Kirk Cousins, 33 completions for 344 yards and 2 touchdowns. Alexander Madison, 11 carries for 34 yards. And Justin Jefferson, pretty good day, 9 receptions for 150 yards. Didn't find the end zone, but he's going to give you 100, 150 yards pretty much every damn week. Baker Mayfield, he had 21 completions for 173 yards, 2 touchdowns. Rashad White, 17 carries for 39 yards. And then Mike Evans is the leading receiver with 6 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown. War, how do you feel about this game? And I'm sure as the Bears fan, you'll have some things to say about my Minnesota Vikings losing this one.
I'll be completely honest with you. To me, it looked like a team that's already good. So they came in unprepared, rusty from, I don't know if they even, how much they played in the offseason, preseason, versus a team that probably took the preseason very, very seriously and took the first game very seriously. I do not think Tampa Bay is going to have a good season, like at all. I do
I
not
don't
think
either.
that this game is indicative of Minnesota's prospects for this season. I think that when I say week one is a liar, this is the perfect example. Um, I think that, yeah, if this game would have occurred, I'll put it to you like this. Had this game occurred in week 3, we're probably looking at like a 30-14 game, courtesy of Minnesota. Minnesota's not going to play this sloppy after
It's
this.
just
This is going to be like one of the Buccaneers 3-4 wins this season.
yeah, it just sucks though, man, because we had such a good season last year that the strength of schedule that we have this year is pretty tough. It's not like we have a lot of easy games. So when you give up one of those ones that's supposed to be a gimme, one that you're supposed to be at home and beat one of these teams that are supposed to be pretty bad, it just sucks when you give one of those away, especially in a league when every game really does matter. We play Thursday night football primetime on the road this week against the Eagles. It's going to be tough. Then we go and we play the Chargers, and then we got the Chiefs week 5, the Niners week 7. Like we got some good football teams on the schedule. We got to get those ones when we give them. So it sucks that they gave this one away. But I will say that there was some good positive takeaways, I think. I mean, aside from the ball security, that needs to be fixed. There was a couple fluky ones. I mean, Ed Ingram, our right guard, he accidentally punched the ball out of Cousins' hands as he was pulling across on a halfback screen. It's just there was some flukiness. I mean, it looked rusty. It looked like they were unprepared, and that sucks. But I will say Justin Jefferson looked as good as usual. I don't think that's a surprise. Jordan Addison looked really good. Four receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. And then TJ Hawkinson, he had 8 catches. It didn't go for many yards. It was 39 or 35 yards. But it looks like the core that they're building in that receiving room with Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson, it looks like those guys are all going to be big parts of the offense this year.
Yeah. I wouldn't worry about Minnesota, man. Not at all.
No, I just want to, I want to see him win, man. I hate seeing him lose. But when you go over to the other side of the football, I mean, Mike Evans, he looked good. Chris Godwin, he looked good. Baker Mayfield looked fine too. Um, you and I said it at the beginning of the show, off stream. It's good to see. We're
Your
kind of
mic,
Baker fans.
your mic is going in and out, brother.
Oh, you can't hear me now?
Y'all can hear you now, but for a second it sounded like you were under the ocean.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had a freaking ad pop up on my thing, so I had to mute it. But we're both Baker Mayfield fans. I think it was good to see
As a
Baker
person,
win.
yeah.
Yeah, as a
As a
person, it
person.
was good to see Baker win.
Yeah, yeah.
So, anyways, it is what it is, man. But do you have any other takeaways from this? I mean, what are your thoughts on Rashad White? Rashad White's a guy we talked about in the offseason. He had 17 carries for 39 yards, and he had two receptions there.
I don't think it's a big. I don't think it's a big. He got a lot of carries, but he's going to need to. I'll tell you right now. I promise this.
Still
If he
looks
doesn't do
inefficient.
more, if he doesn't do more with those carries, they will start giving chances to Sean Taylor.
Sean
Tucker.
Tucker.
Oh God,
Yeah,
not
they
Sean
will.
Taylor.
No, it's yeah. No, it's all
Man.
good. But anyways, man, it is what it is. We'll see what the Vikings can do on primetime this week on Thursday. Hopefully, it's not a repeat of week 2 last year because we got our butts whooped last year. Um, but let's talk about this next game here. It is the Titans on the road at the New Orleans Saints. Close game here, but the Saints do win 16-15. Derek Carr takes his first game as a Saint, and he goes out and he wins one. 300 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Jamal Williams, 18 carries for 45 yards. And then Chris Olave was the leading receiver, 8 receptions for 112 yards. Now, on the opposite side of the ball, Ryan Tannehill had a horrific day, probably one of the worst in the NFL. 198 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Derrick Henry, 15 carries for 63 yards, and DeAndre Hopkins, 7 receptions for 65 yards. So, pretty low scoring game. But what are your thoughts over here with Derek Carr and these Saints and the Tennessee Titans?
Derek Carr started off that game looking really good, and then like as the game went on, he kind of just, to use an old school word, he kind of just petered out. He kind of petered out. I was even in the group chat saying like, "Oh, is MT back? Is MT back?" That's how good Derek Carr looked in the beginning of the game. Um, Olave is Olave. He is clearly like the man over there. Um, Jamal Williams looks like a dude who got paid and is not going to perform to be what they
1 year
thought.
wonder.
1 year, one. That's exactly what he looks like. Um, this offense needs Alvin Kamara back. That's what I was thinking the whole time.
Or
And the
or
way it's
Kendra
looking,
Miller.
or Kendra Miller, the way it's looking, yeah, Kamara's going to eat in this offense. And I want to do a shout out too to Rashid Shaheed. I
Weber
talked a lot
State.
about, right? I talked a lot about guys who were doing something last season and then this season they're still doing it. I think we're getting to the point now where we need to stop looking at Rashid Shaheed as like, oh yeah, it's a guy that just comes in and like he is a big play threat, but I think he's starting to be more consistent at being it. Like he's starting to be more boom than bust. So I mean, other side of the ball, I mean, what's there to say? Derrick Henry is still good so far.
Tajay Spears was being used a lot more than I thought.
I know, that's your guy. I know he's not one of
Yeah.
your guys, but he's a guy that you acknowledge.
He's a guy that I've been talking about.
Yeah. I don't know. The Titans' offense is as boring as paint drying. I've hated their offense for a long time. I'm not gonna lie. Even when AJ Brown was there, I was kind of just like, I wish he would go somewhere else.
D-Hop got 13 targets though. I mean, it looks like they paid him to be the number 1, and it looks like they're going to treat him as such. It's just a matter of how good Ryan Tannehill is.
Tannehill is over the hill. He needs to be gone. Like, okay, tell me if you thought that. Tell me if this thought crossed your mind at some point in this game. at some point in this game, did you think to yourself, man, they should really put in Malik Willis? Because I got there. During
I
this game.
didn't, but you know what I did think though? I thought, man, Will Levis has to be horrible. Like he has to be horrible if they're not willing to look at Will Levis.
Yeah, really bad. I mean, do you think Tannehill holds on to his job the whole season?
I mean, if they drop some games, like you could, I mean, let's be honest here, War. Like, let's say they come out of the first month of football 0-4. Let's just say it happens. I mean, let's pull up their schedule real quick. I'll pull up their schedule so we can kind of project this because you can probably see where I'm going with this. Because there is a quarterback, and I think there's two quarterbacks in this rookie class coming up in 2024 that you probably would be very, very happy to have them as your starting franchise quarterback. One specifically, but um, you drop a game on the road to the Saints, then you play the Los Angeles Chargers, then you have to play the Cleveland Browns, and then you play the Bengals. So that's your first month of football. If you go 0-4 in that first month, you just throw the kid in and see what the kid has.
Which kid though?
Both.
They're both kids. That's the thing. Like,
I
yeah,
mean,
they
I would be throwing in Will Levis. I mean, we saw some Malik Willis last year. Like he played
Malik
football
Willis
last
has
year.
the draft capital advantage though, doesn't he?
Levis has the draft capital advantage.
When was Levis drafted? What was he a
He was
second
drafted in the
rounder?
second round,
And Willis was drafted where?
third.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh, I
Levis was
thought,
drafted like really early in the second round. Like
yeah.
they were shocked he didn't get drafted in the first round, so they made sure that they picked him up quick.
Yeah, that's what they should.
So I don't know, man. I think if you come out of that first month of football 0-4, you're not beating the goddamn Jags, man. You're not beating that team in that division. Like, just throw in the towel, see what Levis has. If Levis is good, then he's good. If he's not, then you're in the running to get Caleb freaking Williams. And then you can have Caleb Williams as a Tennessee Titan. So I don't know, man. I think when I look at it, I just some very quick and dirty takeaways for me, I think is like you said, Rashid Shaheed, he looked good, man. He's one of my top waiver wire ads this week. And um, if anything were to ever happen to Chris Olave or Michael Thomas, which we know, something happening to Michael Thomas has happened like clockwork over the last few seasons. If something were to ever happen to those guys, Rashid Shaheed could be really, really good because Derek Carr loves to throw the deep ball. Rashid Shaheed is good at the deep ball, and it's going to be a connection they have all year long. But that's really where I'm at. You said it best. This team is missing Kamara, but I think that team is probably the favorite to win that division, and I think they should be because they didn't play very good football this last week, but they still look like they were the best team in that division.
The Mike Vrabel is good at getting his guys to cause trouble for teams here and there.
Yeah.
So even when they're not good, so
Yeah. Well, anyways, let's talk about another matchup. And we can kind of speed this up as we go through the back half because we don't want the show to be too long. But we do have some games here. This is going to be the Niners and the Steelers. The Niners just whooped the hell out of the Steelers. It was 30-7. And Brock Purdy looked like the dude, man. Seems like they
told ya.
chose the right guy, right? So, anyways, Purdy goes 220 yards for 2 touchdowns. CMC is the freaking maniac, 152 rushing yards for 1 touchdown. Brandon Ayuk goes nuclear for your fantasy football teams. He has 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Kenny Pickett and the Steelers, man, they just didn't look good. 232 for 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions for Pickett. Najee Harris, I had him as a sit of the week, a must sit, and he had 6 carries for 31 yards. So I think it was probably a good decision to sit him. And then Allen Robinson was the leading receiver. Allen freaking Robinson, the leading receiver, 5 receptions for 64 yards.
I'll put it to you like this. I'm gonna make this quick. When I say week 1 is a liar, I think that the Steelers aren't this bad, but I think the result is still the result. The San Francisco 49ers are Super Bowl contenders. I mean, as simple as that. Even if no matter what Pittsburgh does, Pittsburgh could go destroy whoever they play next week. I think the 49ers probably would have still whipped them. Um, Pittsburgh will have better days ahead. Sorry for Deontay Johnson's owners. I'm talking to myself.
Me too.
Yeah, looks like he's going to be
Hamstring.
missing a few weeks. The 49ers offense, Ayuk, Debo Samuels, Kittle, CMC, Purdy. You got those guys on your team. You're doing it. You're probably feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, as long as Christian McCaffrey is playing the running back position, actually, as long as Christian McCaffrey is touching NFL grass, he's going to be the running back one for your fantasy football teams. He's just a dog, and it's just disgusting, man. He's so good at football. I think I kind of had been hinting at it and alluding to it all offseason, that I thought Brandon Ayuk was probably the best wide receiver on this team, and week one might show that he is. Obviously, we want to see it more times throughout the season, but Brandon Ayuk looks like a freaking dog. I think it could be a breakout year for him. And then, like you said, man, the Steelers, I kind of want to throw the game away, but the result's still the result. But, if Najee goes out and he does that, more, it's going to be hard for them to keep Jalen Warren off the football field. It's going to be really hard for them to keep him off the football field, and that sucks. But yeah, I think more than anything, man, just tough game all around. Niners look good. You said it best. They're a Super Bowl contender most likely.
Yep.
So, anyways, let's go to this next game, and this one was kind of a snooze fest for the most part. But funny, it wasn't the lowest scoring game, even though it was projected to be the lowest scoring game of the week. The Cardinals are on the road at the Commanders, and they lose 16-20. Sam Howell gets his first win as the official starting quarterback for this team. I know he had a game last year, but he wasn't officially the starter. So, anyways, he goes out 200 yards, 1 touchdown. Brian Robinson had 19 carries for 59 yards. Curtis Samuel, 5 receptions for 54 yards. Joshua Dobbs, 132 yards, no touchdowns. James Conner, 62 yards rushing. Rondell Moore, the leading receiver, 33 yards. What's the takeaways here, man? I know there's not a lot of guys on this on either of these teams that you really are just nuts over.
Right now, I don't like anything from either of these teams.
You're not in on any of the Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin stuff. You're not in on any of that.
I mean, not this week. I wasn't. I think it'll get better. I think we need to let Sam Howell get some more weeks on his belt.
He looked okay.
He looked okay. We need to see him do more if he wants to support Dobson, McLaurin, Dobson and McLaurin. Like he's
Yeah.
gonna have to do more.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously McLaurin was still kind of recovering from that injury that he had, the turf toe. But one thing too is Hollywood Brown was, on the other side of the football. He was recovering from a hamstring injury that he popped up on an injury report late last week, and he came out and he didn't do anything crazy. My guess is he probably wasn't 100% healthy, but they probably wanted him to play just to be somewhat competitive. But he had one rushing attempt for 29 yards, and then he had 3 receptions for 28 yards. He's probably going to be the leading receiver there throughout the year. What that is value-wise with Joshua Dobbs throwing him the football, it's probably not a lot. But I think the biggest thing that I noticed, and something I think worth note, is that Zach Ertz saw 10 targets. They just really kept looking at Zach Ertz. Now, he didn't do too much with it. It was 6 catches for 21 yards. But the tight end position as a whole was horrific this week. But if you're getting 10 targets to your tight end position, I mean, that's a guy that you could probably stream on your fantasy football rosters throughout this season.
Yeah, I ain't got too much to say about the Cardinals, man.
Fair enough. Well, let's just move on to the next one. It'll be interesting to see how that year plays out, and maybe the Jets call the Cardinals and see what the price is on Kyler Murray now that Aaron Rodgers is done.
We'll see.
We'll see. That's me as a Kyler fan, hoping that he gets to go play with Garrett Wilson. But maybe you'll have some more to say about this one, War, because it was the Packers and the Bears. The Packers went on the road and played at Soldier Field and was 38-20 war. So what do you have to say about this? And really, what do you think here, man? All right. We might have some technical difficulties here with war, so I guess I will just I'll just summarize this game for you guys. I wish we could have War's thoughts here because War is our Bears fan. Um, Jordan Love kind of had a day, man. 245 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Aaron Jones, for what it's worth, performance of the week, man. He was the running back 1 overall on the week, 26.7 fantasy points. He had a lot of work in the receiving game, 86 receiving yards and a touchdown, and then he had 41 on the ground with another touchdown. Justin Fields, 216 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, looked okay, I guess. 9 carries for 59 yards, and then Darnell Mooney, wah 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 for these DJ Moore fans. DJ Moore was looking like he was on the damn Panthers again, man. It looked like he was on the damn Panthers because DJ Moore came in there and he had what was it? 2 receptions for 25 yards. So tough game for the Bears. Sorry, Bears fans. And I guess since War's not here, I can say it. Thankfully, they lost. I know, obviously, the Packers won, but needed as many of these NFC North teams to lose as possible for my Minnesota Vikings. So, anyways, it is what it is. It looks like we have War back in here. I'll bring War back into this so we can talk a little bit more. What happened there?
Okay.
What happened there, man?
Oh, man. Week 1 is a liar.
Week 1's a liar. Okay.
We'll see.
All right.
See.
Well,
I don't have anything to say. The Bears look like complete dog shit. Jordan Love, I don't care what anybody say. I stand on what I said. We'll see what happens when you play a team that actually has a defense. Not going to make too many excuses, even though that's an excuse. And you know what? If Jordan Love is good, more power to the fucking Packers, I guess. That being said, I wasn't overly impressed with Jordan Love. The most impressive play he had, I think he threw like a back shoulder pass to like Romeo Dobbs for a touchdown. Everything else is just game manager shit. You're doing a pitch to Aaron Jones. He's taking it to the house. I don't know. I just want and I hate to say this to the other Bears fans out there, I want to see them against a real team. It's clear that this team has no pass rush whatsoever, so it's easy to sit there when the team can't pin their ears back and come after the quarterback. It's easy to sit there and say, oh, yeah, Jordan Love. But to be honest, I haven't even really heard any Packers fans pumping their chests about Jordan Love. They're like, oh, yeah, of course we're going to beat the Bears. We're the Packers. So that's all I got to say about it. I'm done talking about this shit pretty much.
okay. Well, War, I do want to ask you one serious question for Dynasty Fantasy Football purposes. Obviously, we love Justin Fields in Dynasty Fantasy Football. He scores a lot of fantasy points because of what he brings on to your fantasy football teams with his legs. As a Bears fan, what is your opinion if Justin Fields goes out there this year? Let's say the Bears finish last in the NFC North. What does this front office do with Justin Fields? Do you think that that's something that they would explore? Do you think they would move on?
Let me tell you this. This Justin Fields is not Ryan Poles' quarterback. I mean, I hate to say it. And the Bears intentionally positioned themselves for this scenario if Justin Fields is trash after the season. They have. I mean, 2 first-rounders this upcoming draft, multiple extra picks. They theoretically could try to trade a haul to get Caleb Williams if they want to. Imagine if the Panthers and the Bears both have top 8 draft picks. the Panthers look like a top 5 draft pick already. And the way the Bears looked on Sunday, even though I think that's a liar, I think the Bears will still win 8 or 9 games. It just sucks because it's Green Bay. And I think the Bears kind of drunk some of their own Kool-Aid going into the week. Dude, honestly, there's a scenario where Fields can have a similar season to last year and the Bears could still move on. That's on the table. The Bears GM didn't say, oh yeah, if Justin Fields sustains his play, we're not going to move on. He said, I want to see Justin Fields take a leap. And this past Sunday, that did not look like a leap. That looked like regression. So, yeah, I
mean, there was the rumblings this offseason of should the Chicago Bears stay put and take Bryce Young? Should they just take Bryce and see what it is? Or, I mean, there was the rumblings there, and I think you and I can both agree, and I think mostly everybody in the Dynasty Fantasy Football community can agree that Caleb Williams is a better prospect than Bryce Young. So if you have an opportunity to grab,
is a really, 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 really good prospect. He's not generational. You get what I'm saying? Right. Caleb Williams is a generational prospect. I don't know much about Drake May. I don't know if you think Drake May is a better prospect than Bryce Young, but we know Caleb is. So, I mean, if we're
I don't know if Drake May is a better prospect than Bryce Young. He definitely doesn't have the resume that Bryce Young had coming into the NFL draft. However, I think he has some of these intangibles and some of these similarities to a guy like Justin Herbert when Justin Herbert was coming out of Oregon. And if you get that type of upside out of Drake May, a Justin Herbert type of player, you're going to be hella happy as a front office because landing that type of quarterback is a franchise quarterback.
I think they'll move on from Fields for Caleb, but I don't think they'll move on from Fields for Drake May.
Yeah, but May could also be Carson Wentz, and if he's Carson Wentz, then it is what it is. You know what I mean? So, I don't know, man. I just had to ask the question. I mean, obviously, there's a similarity between the NFL and fantasy football, but sometimes there is that disconnect where there's a player who is very good for fantasy football, but he's not cutting it out in the NFL. And if that happens, obviously, sometimes we lose fantasy football players, even though they're good for our fantasy teams.
Long bright spot before we move on, Roschon Johnson. He's coming. He's coming. If you haven't seen it, just look up the highlights of his runs. Look up the highlight of him exploding the anatomy of the Green Bay Packer defender. And then, like, Roschon's taking that job, man. Khalil Herbert, you had a decent week. Roschon's taking that job, man. He's a better blocker. He's probably a better running back, like more well-rounded. He's more than Bijan's backup. And I think he has the potential to be a league winner. So, not in our league, not in any of me and Andrew's leagues because I have all the stocks of Roschon. So, but
I let you have one. I could have had one. I let you have it.
You did.
I'm a good friend. But
if you're not in one of our leagues, you should probably be looking at Roschon on the waiver wire.
I don't even remember. What did I get in that deal?
I don't know. It wasn't anything.
I think I moved back a couple spots in a rookie draft, and I think you gave me like a future third or a future second or
something like that. Yeah.
It is what it is. I think I took Sam Laporta instead, so I'm okay with taking Sam Laporta.
Yeah, you're smart though, because you did that to me in a league where I have no chance of winning whatsoever.
I wanted a future pick just to have some more ammo later down the road. But let's talk. We have 5 more games, so let's get through these 5 games, and then we'll talk about our rookie report, and then we'll get out of here. But this game is the Philadelphia Eagles on the road at the Patriots. The Eagles win 25-20. And actually, you know what? I think I skipped a game, so we'll talk about this, then we'll go back. But Jalen Hurts, they looked like they kind of struggled a little bit. Now, the weather was bad as well. 170 yards, 1 touchdown. Kenny Gainwell actually led the team in carries. Looked like he was the RB1 as far as the usage goes. We'll be interested to hear your thoughts to see if that will continue. And then A.J. Brown led receiving options, 7 receptions for 79 yards. Now, for the Patriots, Mac Jones had himself a day. I think he actually was the second highest scoring fantasy football quarterback this week, which is pretty crazy. 316 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ezekiel Elliott had 7 carries for 29 yards, and then Kendrick Bourne is the leading receiver, 6 receptions, 64 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, what is your thoughts on this game in New England, and what do you make of this?
I'll be honest. The games that took place after the Bears game or during the Bears games, I was so depressed from it that I was like barely paying attention. I do know that this backfield for the Eagles is super weird.
Rashad Penny was a healthy scratch.
Healthy scratch. Gainwell was the starter. Oh man, I don't know, dude.
Swift 1 carry.
One carry. I don't know what that's about, man. I mean, Nick Sirianni said after the game that we got to get Swift more touches, but
Which doesn't make sense to me because you're the motherfucker calling the plays. So what do you mean we got to get him more touches? You are the one who didn't give him touches.
I don't know, man. It's stupid. It's stupid. I'm worried about my Swift shares if I'm a DeAndre Swift owner.
I don't think. I mean, when you were saying, what was your game you were playing earlier?
Which one? Oh, sustainable, unsustainable.
Unsustainable for the Eagles, man. They're not going to look this bad the whole year. They're they're a Super Bowl contender. I think it's just tough. Bad weather. Bad weather. You're playing on the road in New England. It's tough, man.
Yeah. This is one of those aberration games. We'll see if Mac Jones continues to play like that, though.
He threw 50. He had 54 pass attempts.
Yeah, we'll see.
Crazy amount of pass attempts. And then what are your thoughts? One more takeaway here that I just want to get to. What are your thoughts on this backfield, man? Ezekiel Elliott led them in rushing yards, 7 carries for 29 yards. Ramondre Stevenson had 12 attempts for 25 yards, but Stevenson had 6 receptions. Zeke had 5, though. So, I mean, it looks like they're back to full-fledged New England Patriots running back by committee.
Yeah, man. I'm a Ramondre owner. I'm trying to move Ramondre. And I'm talking about dynasty and redraft. I'm never afraid to trade a running back most of the time in any type of league, unless you have one of the juggernauts at the running back position. Ramondre is to me, he's never been a juggernaut type of running back. He's not a CMC or Austin Eckler. So,
and one more thing here, because we got to bring it up. The performance of the week. Hunter Henry finished as the tight end 1 on the week with 16.6 fantasy points, 5 receptions for 56 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, it was a horrible week for tight ends. You said unsustainable.
Yes, unsustainable. Hunter Henry, we either stop doing that or get hurt. It's going to be one or the other.
But he did finish as the tight end 1 this week. So performance of the week, Hunter Henry. But let's get into this other game, the one I skipped. It's the Raiders and the Broncos. The Raiders went on the road to Denver, and they spoiled Sean Payton's coaching debut there in Denver. I think the biggest surprise of this game was that Jacoby Myers had 9 receptions for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. He actually had more receiving yards and more touchdowns and more targets than Devontae Adams. So a little bit surprising there. But as a whole, Jimmy G, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Josh Jacobs, 19 carries for 48 yards. And then over on the other side of the ball, Russell Wilson, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. Javonte had 13 carries for 52 yards. And then Pirine had 4 receptions for 37 yards receiving. So what are your takeaways here in Denver? Like I said, the Raiders came on the road and they took one from Sean Payton.
A snooze fest. This game was a snooze fest.
Greg Dulcich did get hurt in this game. Greg Dulcich is hurt, and he's probably going to miss some time.
Bad week for tight ends, like you said. We knew that Javonte was going to be on a pitch count. Which after the J.K. Dobbins injury, maybe he should be on a pitch count. Yeah. Hell. This game sucked, dude. Like, I told you, I barely paid attention to the games after the Bears because I went into like a dark place. But I did see when you said Jimmy G got hurt already. I think we're going to see Aiden O'Connell at some point. I'm not going to lie to you.
I mean, Jimmy did come back.
He did. But I still feel like we're gonna see Aiden O'Connell at some point. Um, I don't know. I don't think this game is indicative of how the
Anything.
Broncos will play, but it's probably indicative of how the Raiders are going to play.
I think for me, man, I mean, as I look across the board, I think the biggest disappointing thing for me was Marvin Mims. I kind of had been hyping Marvin Mims a little bit, especially with Jerry Jeudy being out.
Yeah.
Felt like there was going to be a lot of opportunity on the table for Marvin Mims, and then um, as the week came along, he was being out snapped, out targeted, out produced by Brandon Johnson at the wide receiver position. So and Lil
From our
Jordan
Brandon
Humphrey.
from Brandon Johnson or Brandon from our league? Which one are you talking about? Because I don't even know who that is.
Brandon Johnson, Brandon Johnson and Lil Jordan Humphrey. So it
Oh,
was
you know
bad,
you
man, for Marvin
getting
Mims.
outplayed by a dude who legally named Lil Jordan.
Lil Jordan, yeah. I mean, I think if you have Marvin on your dynasty teams, I think we'll pump the brakes. Jerry Judy's going to come back here pretty soon, and maybe it's a slow burn on Marvin Mims. We're not giving up on Marvin Mims right away, but for redraft purposes, I think Marvin Mims is going to be droppable.
Yeah, he is. He is definitely
So
for right now.
it's what it is, man.
Yeah,
But you know what? I'll give it to you. Javonte looked all right. He looked all right.
he did. But now we need to preserve him. We got to preserve him now.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's get to the most exciting game of the week. And that was the Miami Dolphins going on the road to SoFi playing the Los Angeles Chargers in a game where the Dolphins win 36-34. And in this game, we had not just one, but we had two performances of the week. One coming from Tua Tagovailoa. He was the quarterback one this week, and he had, let me read it out because this sounds like a fake stat line, but it's 466 passing yards for 3 touchdowns on just 28 attempts. And then the other baller of the week, Tyreek Hill, finishes the wide receiver one this week. Yes, you see
Why?
it, 44.5 fantasy points for you. He had 215 yards for 2 touchdowns.
No,
So very,
when you show Tyreek stats, that explains why Tua stats look like that. This dude
yeah.
was cat. I bet that was a whole bunch of yak. I bet that
There's
was a
there's
whole
a
bunch of
there's a
yak.
lot of yak, but Tua looked good, man. He
He
looked
did.
really
He did.
good.
He did.
Um, and
I mean,
and
I'm concerned about Jalen Waddle, but
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be concerned about Jalen Waddle, but on the opposite side of the ball, Justin Herbert, he had 228 yards and a touchdown. Austin Eckler had 117 yards and a touchdown. Keenan Allen had 6 receptions and 76 yards. So all around, everybody looked good.
Justin needs to do more
Mostert,
than that, though.
he does
That's
need
what
to
I
do
was
that.
worried about. That's what I was worried about with Justin Herbert. Like, it's like we know, bro. We know you could put up 300, 400-yard games. Like, why aren't you doing it? Like, we know he could do
But
that.
we need you to, you throw 400 yards in your sleep, but
Yeah.
we need you to throw 3 touchdowns and win the ball game as well,
Yeah.
Justin. Like, that's what we need you to do. And you know what? There was some mental mistakes. I mean, Devin, he's the Dolphins fan of my fan group, and he said, the Chargers are going to charge her every once in a while, and he said, when they picked off Tua and they brought it out of the end zone, that was a stupid decision. I don't know why they did that, but Chargers are going to charge her, I guess. But I think for me, the biggest takeaway here, man, is Tyreek said he wanted to go for 2,000 yards. He might be able to do that damn thing. And if he does, Tua's going to be very good. And then on the other side of the football, I don't think there's anything crazy. I mean, Keenan Allen looked good. Justin Herbert looked fine. Austin Eckler looked good.
Mike Williams
But
get hurt as usual.
Mike Williams got hurt. He came back into the game, though. But I think Joshua Kelly is not being looked at in fantasy football eyes the way that he should be, because we have seen Kellen Moore have two running back systems in the past. He obviously had the Tony Pollard and the Ezekiel Elliott system where he was running two backs, and both backs were fantasy relevant.
Yeah.
Joshua Kelly in this game, he had 16 carries. He matched Austin Eckler in carries. They had the same amount of carries. Kelly had 91 rushing yards and 1 touchdown, and is there a chance that Joshua Kelly is fantasy relevant this year, man? I think he should be a priority pickup in your redraft leagues. I think he's somebody that you should be looking to put some fab on, especially because Austin Eckler did get injured in this game, and they said that Austin Eckler's status is unclear due to an ankle injury in week 2.
It's definitely something to think about.
But he does look like the clear handcuff to Austin Eckler.
Yeah, he does. Can't say he doesn't.
So, I don't know. Interesting to say the least. Other than that, you brought up Jalen Waddle. 4 receptions for 78 yards. He obviously didn't find the end zone. I had him as a start of the week because I thought this matchup would be a shootout, and it was. It's just that 215 of those receiving yards went to Tyreek. What are you going to do?
Jalen will have his 40-point week, I'm sure.
It'll come.
This is nothing different than what it was like last season. You have a 40-point week from Tyreek, a 10-point week from Jalen. Then you have like a week where they both score like 30. Then you have a week where Jalen puts up 40 and Tyreek puts up 15. Like, it's just the Dolphins offense with Tua healthy.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, we have a few more games here. Let's get this one let's get these ones out of the way. A couple snooze fests. I'm not going to lie. The Rams, they go to Seattle. They beat the dog shit out of the Seahawks. Geno Smith looks horrible in this game. I want to say that Geno had 112 passing yards for 1 touchdown. Kenneth Walker had 12 carries for 64 yards. DK had 47 receiving yards and a touchdown. But Matthew Stafford looked decent, man. 334 yards. 0 passing touchdowns, though, for Stafford because they did it all on the ground, specifically Kyron Williams, who had 52 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Tutu Atwell had 119 yards. And then obviously the guy we talked about earlier, Puka Nacua, 10 receptions on 15 targets for 119 yards. I think the biggest thing here is Cam Akers. He had 22 carries for 29 yards. He averaged 1.3 yards per carry. What are your thoughts here on this matchup, and what do you think of some of these fantasy football options for the Seahawks and for the Rams?
Well, they tried to write Geno off, but he didn't write back. But it looks like those messages are starting to come through in the email. Because Geno keep playing like this, I'm gonna write his ass off.
He thought they didn't write back because he lost cell service, but now that he has cell service again, they're starting to come through.
Yeah, it's starting to come through. We'll see, Geno. I'm gonna put this in the week 1 bullshit right now, but me and Andrew already had our eyebrows raised at you to begin with, so
it's a yellow flag. It's a yellow flag.
Like, your leash is kind of short, buddy. Shit. What do we got?
It's frustrating, man, because you and I, we've been overly cautious with Geno Smith, and I went against some of my caution, and I drafted him in some leagues. And after the last week, I was like, "Did I fuck up? Did I? Should I have listened to my own damn advice and stayed away from Geno?" I don't know.
I don't know, man.
We'll see.
We're gonna have to see, man. Yeah.
What do you take of Puka, though? Because Puka is probably the number 1 waiver wire pickup for everybody that's going to happen this week. I bet people are going to spend a ton of fab on him. And my waiver episode that I had come out today, I talked about Puka, and I said he probably is the number 1 pickup at the wide receiver position. But it sounded like at the top of the show, you weren't very sold on Puka Nacua.
No, I think it's enough more week 1 bullshit because I think the Rams are trash. I think they trash. This guy, what was he, a late round pick or undrafted?
Yeah, he was a late round pick.
I think it's feeling more like a one-hit wonder. I hope it's unfortunate that in our redraft league that Puka was already on somebody's team because I would love for him to be
the Cooper Kupp manager's roster, though.
Yeah. I would love to have that distraction on the waiver wire while I focus on other positions of need. That's where I am with that.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't think there's really any other takeaways. JSN, I said it. I will say I had a TikTok, whatever you want to say, where I said that I didn't think that JSN was going to look fully healthy until week 2 or week 3. A lot of these TikTok content consumers called me a fraud and a clown and a fucking idiot because they thought that JSN was going to be a dog week 1. Look, man, he had 3 catches for 13 yards. I'd say
Are you
that it's
starting
pretty
with Steve Shaheed over JSN right now if you have both of those guys on your roster?
probably not. Um, just because I think the ceiling of JSN is higher, but I probably am not starting either of those guys if we're being honest. I just don't want to start either right now on my teams. But I was called a fraud, a clown, an idiot. What the hell ever. Looks like I know what the fuck I'm talking about, guys. Like, seems like I know what the hell I'm talking about. So,
I don't know.
and this is not me
Andrew
saying.
Andrew
Go ahead.
keeps receipts.
It's not.
Ask the people who talked about him drafting Travis Kelce. He keeps
It's
receipts.
not. Yeah, I do. A lot of people said that I was going 0-2 this week. We play with a median, so there's 2 games you play each week. A lot of people were saying I was going 0-2. Um, I ended up going 2-0 after Travis Kelce missed some time, and I kept those receipts. I put them in a little graphic. I sent it off to the league, but um, and this is not me saying that I can predict the future. Look, I'm going to be wrong too. But I don't just say shit to say shit. That's my point of bringing this up. Is I don't say shit to say shit. I say stuff that I actually have researched and I have conviction on. And I said that JSN wasn't going to look good right away because he's literally playing with a broken wrist or healing from a broken wrist. Like he has a cast on his arm. Like, come on, man. It's going to be hard to play football. I'm not worried though. I'm not worried about JSN. I'm not worried about DK or Lockett. I'm not worried about these guys. Obviously, my eyebrows are raised a little bit on Gino. Let's see you. Come on, Gino. We want to see you get back together. But I think we'll take everything that we saw in this game with a grain of salt, and we'll just move on to the next game.
Yeah.
So 2 left here, War. This one, there's one part of this game we're not going to even have to talk about. It's Sunday Night Football. The Cowboys go in and they just stomp out the New York Giants, man. 40-0. Daniel Jones looks horrific in this matchup. It was 100 yards and 2 interceptions. They couldn't get anything going on offense. If you had any of the Dallas Cowboys passing options, you probably weren't happy because 2 defensive touchdowns get him up so quickly in the game that Dak Prescott doesn't even have to throw the football 143 yards and no touchdowns. It was pretty much the Tony Pollard show the whole way. 14 carries for 70 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think a lot of what happened in this game we can just throw away, War, because it got out of hand quickly, and we didn't actually really get to see much of either of these offenses.
Yeah, this game was, even though I have my thoughts, I think this game was an aberration, pretty much. I don't think the Cowboys are 40 points better than the Giants. I mean, not. I think Daniel Jones is pretty much trash, but I don't think. Would you buy low on Daniel Jones right now?
I probably would. I think in your dynasty leagues you could probably buy low. Um, it's worth a price check, I think. But like I said, I mean, when it comes to takeaways from this game, um, the Cowboys defense looks for real. That's the takeaway that I have. But other than that, um, we didn't see much Dak. We didn't see much Daniel Jones. We didn't see much anything. I think the biggest takeaway that I have is they came out and said that they wanted to preserve Tony Pollard. They didn't want to. They didn't want to run him too much, and them preserving and not running Tony Pollard that much was 14 carries for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if they kind of unleash him a little bit more, I think Tony Pollard is probably going to give you RB1 numbers this season.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that's the only takeaway is they said they were taking it easy with Pollard that game, and he went out and put up 22 fantasy points. So it's I think it's something to monitor there. So anyways, War, The last game, Monday Night Football. We have the Bills at the Jets, and unfortunately, man, Aaron Rodgers, third snap in his Jets career, pops the Achilles tendon, man. Done for the season. It is the Zach Wilson show back in New York again. They somehow come out and win this game with a punt return touchdown in overtime to win the game with an undrafted Xavier Gibson. Uh, crazy game. Josh Allen, he was throwing the football all over the place and not always to the right team. He threw 3 interceptions last night. Um, Still good nights from Stephon Diggs for you if you had him, but other than that, man, it was it was all Aaron Rodgers and the worry of Aaron Rodgers last night, and it turns out that he's just done. It's done for the season, and there's rumblings that he might be done for the career. War
Yeah, Achilles is hard to come back from.
at 40.
At 40. I'm gonna put most of this because I know we're running short on time. I'm gonna put most of this. My part list is on Josh Allen. Should there be concern at this point that Josh Allen and I'm not talking about in fantasy terms here, I'm talking about real life terms, which could have an impact on fantasy. From about the midway season of last season to now, he has not been the Josh Allen that we've come to love.
Yeah,
So I don't know what's going on there. We're starting to see these type of games more and more from him.
yeah. I mean, I think he they talked about it. He talked about it in the press conference. I think somebody asked him. They said, you come in here, you throw 3 interceptions in a game that Aaron Rodgers isn't playing in. I mean, most people probably thought that once Rodgers was gone, you guys were going to run away with this thing, and somehow you come out of here and you go home with a loss on the scoreboard. And Josh said he was like, it's frustrating, and it's you could see that he was emotionally upset about it, and he's like, it's the same shit. It's the same shit that I did last year. It's the same shit that I'm doing right now, and he's like that shit has to stop. Um, and he was just frustrated, upset about it. And look, man, he's got to take care of the football. I'm not worried about him as far as fantasy football goes. I'm not worried
Yeah,
about him as far as the NFL goes right now. Um, you know, and if you got to come down to say that they've paid him to be this guy for a long time, they've paid him to be that guy for a long time. He's the franchise quarterback there, but you got to get that shit under control, because if you go out and throw 3 picks and you're losing football games that you should win, um, I know somebody on that team is not going to be very nice about it, and his name's Stephon Diggs. He might go to the media and start talking shit. So
yeah,
we've seen him do it multiple times. We've seen him do it this summer. So
yeah.
it was good to see Diggs on the sideline though, because when Josh did throw one of those picks, Diggs came over. He grabbed him, talked to him. He said, "Look, keep it together. You're good. We got this. We can." He was rallying the troops. He was keeping it together. So it was good to see that. But I think more than anything, just unfortunate, man. I think I tweeted something last night. I said, um, this doesn't move the needle. The Aaron Rodgers injury doesn't move the needle for me on how I view Garrett Wilson in dynasty fantasy football. I think Garrett Wilson is still going to be a superstar in dynasty fantasy football leagues. Um, I think they'll get the quarterback position figured out eventually.
They'll bring somebody in there.
Unfortunately, though, for redraft purposes and his 2023 outlook, this sucks. It sucks a lot. This is going to really damage his upside this year.
Especially if
And
you took them super high.
yeah, I mean, I was on record. He's a my guy of mine this year, and I said that, I thought that Garrett Wilson had a top 5 ceiling, um, and I was pretty confident that he was going to finish in that top 5. With Zach Wilson under center, I mean, that ceiling is pretty much gone at this point. It's non-existent. I just don't think that Garrett Wilson can be a top 5 quarterback. I mean, a top 5 wide receiver with Zach Wilson playing quarterback, and that sucks for 2023. But for dynasty, this should not change how you view Garrett Wilson.
No.
And then I think my last and final takeaway here was Brees Hall coming off the ACL. He looked good.
Look good. Yeah.
He looked good. I think they still had him on a snap count. They were splitting some carries with Dalvin Cook. I think that the split was like Brees Hall had 10 carries, Dalvin had 13. Brees took too long he took too long plays, but you could tell that he kind of was lacking some of that long speed due to the injury. He was kind of still recovering from that because typically when Brees Hall breaks one of those off, he's gone. He's going to the end zone. And he was getting caught last night on two different occasions. One of them was like 80 yards. He got caught. The other one was like 40 yards or 20 yards or something like that. But 10 carries for 127 yards and one catch for 20 yards. He looked good, man. I think you give Brees some time. Maybe the second half of the season, Brees Hall is going to be back to giving you these RB1 numbers.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a very run-centric team going forward. I really do think so.
They're going to
Running,
have to
playing
be.
defense. Yeah.
And they're a really good defensive football team, so that does help them
Yeah.
out because their defense can win them games and the run game can keep them in games. So it's good things, but it sounds like for the most part, at least what Saleh said today, it sounds like he said Zach Wilson is the guy. They may bring a guy in to add some depth behind him, but it sounds like for now they're going to move forward with Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson is going to be the starting quarterback of this team at least for the recent future.
Yeah, I agree.
So, anyways, man, I said we would get out of this show with some final thoughts on a rookie report. So, I've put this graphic together for us, War. This is the top 10 rookies for fantasy football this week. Puka Nacua was the highest scoring rookie with 21 points, followed by Anthony Richardson, Bijan Robinson, Zay Flowers, Roshan Johnson, as you spoke about, number 5, Jordan Addison, 6, Rashee Rice, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and Sam Laporta. Is there anything on this list that comes to light? I think the only guy on here that we haven't really touched on was the Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice looks like he could become that number 1 receiver there in Kansas City.
You think so?
I think so, man. I mean, when you're competing with Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, MVS, he looked decent. I just think it's a matter of getting him more snaps, and he'll be okay.
I'm
Obviously, the
looking
number
at
one.
his numbers right now. I mean, yeah, he scored the touchdown, but I don't know, man. It's just I feel like it's too early to make that determination for that Kansas City wide receiver group.
Yeah, it's too early to tell, but I would say, I mean, just looking at this list, obviously we don't have Jahmyr Gibbs or Dalton Kincaid on this list, who are probably drafted very high in your leagues. But for the most part, War, uh, Anthony Richardson, Bijan, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, it looks like the guys who it should be. I mean, it looks like these guys that you drafted in your first round, these are the guys that are finishing on our week 1 rookie report.
Yeah. Yeah, man. We'll see. It's so hard after week 1, bro. Like, I really want to see now if some of these guys start carrying these performances from week 1 to week 2. I'm going to start feeling like it's not an aberration because anybody could pop off in week 1 and then they'll just disappear for the rest of the season. Let's see if we get some sustainability, especially with guys like Puka Nacua and even Roshan Johnson. I mean, Khalil Herbert did pretty decent in the game. It's just that Roshan was better. And I know the team loves him. So, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep a report each week. Every week that comes by, we'll keep a rookie report there and we'll keep doing this. And I think in the future, we'll try and keep it a little bit more concise on our thoughts on each game. But, this is kind of the format. This is kind of what we're looking like for the rest of the season for Let's Talk Dynasty. We'll just keep you guys informed on, what is happening in these games every week, how we're reacting, fantasy football reactions, and then obviously how these rookies are developing throughout the year. And, just excited to keep it going, man. Do you have any final thoughts for us before we get on out of here?
No.
No, sir. Okay, man. Well, your Bears play who this week?
Buccaneers.
You guys play the Bucks. All right. Well, we play the Eagles. Let's hope that we get a Vikings and a Bears W this week.
Let's hope, because heads are going to start rolling if we don't.
I agree. All right, man. Well, let's get out of here. If you guys can, if you're watching the replay, go ahead and like the video. That's the best free way to show our channel support. Also, go ahead and tap in the comment section. When you guys interact in the comment section, it does help us out in the algorithm, and that's the best way to help us grow. And then at the end of the day, if you like content like this, you want more content like this, subscribe to our channel. And my final piece of advertisement. If you want help with any start sit decisions, waiver wire decisions, or just want direct access to me on the day-to-day basis to ask me any fantasy football questions, any NFL questions, or just talk live with me, man, go ahead and join our free Discord. It is going to be linked in the description. Like I said, it is free to join. It has direct access to me. So go ahead and do those things for us. We don't have anything else for you guys. We will see you on the next episode of Let's Talk Dynasty, and we'll recap week 2 for you. So, War, peace out, man.